don't breathe.
Right. Some math.
So I will start myself. Hi, I'm Karen from around Nuremberg in Germany. Passing to anyone else.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Cedrik, one of the speakers. I will show you a little bit more about Webflow in a minute, and I'm from Hamburg Hamburg in Germany. And yeah, looking forward to your questions after the presentation.
My name is Drew Scott. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the United States, and this is my first webinar. I'm just taking a coding school in the US right now for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So.
I'll just continue. My name is Stefan, coming from a small town in Germany called Meiningen in the southwest of Thüringen. And I'm working as a software developer for a manufacturer of telecom equipment in 5G research topics mainly currently. And as we are also now trying to get into cloud services and hosting services, I am also trying to get more knowledge about that area.
Did you say you're from Winigen in Germany?
Sorry?
Did you say that you're from Winigen?
No, it's called Meiningen.
Ah, okay.
Nobody
No
knows.
problem.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I've been to Winigen. Okay, I'll continue. My name is Connor. I'm from a small town in Australia near Melbourne, and yeah, very curious to get some high-level no-code solutions that you've done. I'm pretty new to Webflow, and I've done a few little integrations with Zapier, but I'm curious to see some more complex integrations.
Hi, my name is Sundar. I joined from Chennai, India, and very glad to meet you all.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Vlad, also connected from Germany, and very excited about this session. And thanks, Cedrik, for taking your time to present us what you have gained, your knowledge about this topic. And I hope the second speaker will join us soon. Passing to someone else, maybe Michael.
We actually have our second speaker in the call. Thanks God, everyone is in now.
Okay,
Miko
great.
is here. If you want Miko to take your mic and present, introduce yourself really quickly, would be great.
Yeah, sure. So, hey guys, sorry about being late. But yeah, so I'm Miko, and I started in no code kind of as a necessity, right? So I started a transportation company with a few friends from my first job, and we had no coding experience, no technical experience, and we kind of just had to figure out a way to make it scalable. 20,000 rides a month, and how do you do that with like 3 guys and no code? So the answer is you can, and you just need the right tools, and Integromat was that tool for us. So yeah, I'm super excited to kind of share more about that with you guys.
Okay, if we have more people who want to say hi and where they are from, because we have a crazy global coverage here, what is really nice.
Yeah, today you really get this great chance. Yesterday it was like a very crazy offer from Karen to say hi, and we started to hear more than 1,000 greetings.
Yeah, Vlad, let everyone at least introduce themselves. I think Kevin wanted to take.
Hi, can you hear me?
Very clearly.
Yes, we can.
I'm Kevin, Kev from London. I'm a software developer, and I've been learning AWS for a while now. I'm doing GCP and Azure. So I'm very interested in your seminars, and I love your group. It's really good.
Hi, my name is Chris Molyneux. I run an agency in Houston, Texas called Digicy Marketing. And this is my first meetup with this group. Looking forward to learning more about integrations with Webflow.
You joined the right group.
Yeah, everyone, please try to keep your mic muted if somebody is speaking. If I will mute you, everyone can mute everyone, by the way. If I will mute you, don't take it personally. I don't mean anything like against you and don't have anything. And you can freely unmute yourself when you want to speak. So take control of your own stuff. Thank you. Do we have more people who want to say hi? Otherwise, we will begin.
So hello, my name is Chandradeep and I'm from India, but currently working with Amble EBI in Cambridge, UK. I help the research community to look forward with the cloud technologies, how they can manage their workloads over the cloud, how their application and pipeline can work from HPC to cloud migration. So I'm helping my organizations to moving ahead with the cloud technologies coming out from the HPC and scale it up for all the public. So we basically generate the petabytes of the data for the public, and we do most of the time analysis on the sequencing data. So I'm completely from the life science. I may not be from more technical, but yeah, I'm helping technology side of the life science research. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's about time. We have right now 34 people in the call. A few people are watching us on YouTube as well in the streaming mode. And I would say let's begin. Cedrik, with you, will give us an overview of no code, like very beginnings, like what it is. and then dive into Webflow, right, Cedrik?
Yep, that's correct. So I can take over if you want. Or do you want to say something else to everyone?
Yes. No. Yes,
Okay,
please
okay.
take over. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say, and I will feel stupid.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
You want to share your screen, right?
Yeah. Do you actually already see it?
It's interesting. We see it just as one of attendees. It's not in the full screen mode. If you can stop presenting and then start presenting again, maybe it will just catch up and in a full screen mode.
Should be in full screen.
I see it in full screen.
Yeah,
so,
it is full screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I guess you just pinned it because it's not full screen for all other attendees. But you can pin one person in the call, and it will be just for you the full screen, but not for the whole stream.
Okay.
Okay, then I will stop it, and now I'm starting it again. So, do you now see it in full screen?
Yes, now
Yes,
it's better.
much better.
Now it's better.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, perfect. Don't worry. So, what we want to do today is talking a little bit about the whole low-code and no-code movement. I think Karen already did a quite nice intro to everything, but maybe also a couple words to myself and what I'm doing. I founded a low-code tool myself 12 months ago, and it was like a low-code tool focusing on developers. So we really try to give this low-code, which is more for citizen developers, so people who are not that familiar with code. We wanted to put the same idea into the real code world. And now what we also do is that we provide small companies and also startups with low code and no code consultancy or consulting. And we are also developing low code solutions for our clients. So if any one of you want to get into this whole low code topic even in more depth, then I'm also happy to talk to you later on. But now I want to just give you a short overview about the whole low-code ecosystem. And yeah, most of you probably know one or two low-code tools. I mean, it's popping up everywhere. And it will not a complete list that I will show you today, because there are like hundreds of tools from each and every country who want to actually win this field. And I will just give you a short introduction to everything. So what is low code or what is no code, this whole thing? And it's actually not that new. So actually around 2014, Forrester, which is like a big institute, they mentioned the word low code for the first time. They did a big study and they found a lot of tools in this field and a lot of tools that help citizen developer to become more developer as they have been before. And with this big study, Forrester mentioned this this term low code for the first time, and that's actually 6 years ago, so not that young. And also a little bit before that, around the year 2000, there was a cool tool called Dreamweaver. It was like a typical what you see is what you get editor, so a lot of dragging and dropping. And with that, you could also applications. On the left-hand side here, you have a picture from the Dreamweaver as it was in the year 2000. It was like in HTML, what you see is what you get tool, but you can already see that there was like a structure where you have like different folders here, and you have the possibility to really drag and drop the different HTML components. And you had the possibility to still have like the code editor on the left-hand side. So it was like one of the first low-code solutions where you actually had the mix between code and visual application design, essentially. And it was one of its kind actually, and it worked, but it still had some hiccups. But now going into the year 2020, which we are currently, you still have this big player, Adobe Dreamweaver, on the market. It is now an Adobe product, as I said, so they exited actually a couple times. So they had like different buyers over the last 20 years. But it is still like, if you compare these two screenshots, it looks kind of similar. The UI got way better. So the focus of Adobe Dreamweaver is actually currently even more into the citizen developer sphere and not into the developer sphere. So they got rid of the code part. You can still access it, but it's hidden between a couple of clicks. But the concept is still the same. And it's not only Dreamweaver, but low-code applications overall are classified as building applications visually. So every time you have like a drag and drop, you have what you see is what you get. All of these tools have one thing in common, and that's generally these visual application design. And this principle was also implemented in Dreamweaver, so that's actually 20 years old. And another big point of what is low code is that you have like modeling, this visual aspect as well. So modeling all of the processes and relationships instead of programming. So you don't have like a lot of programming in building these applications. It's again in-depth tooling so that you can have all of the business applications that you want to implement and all of the business processes as well modeled visually. And like what all other low-code tools have in common is they obviously save time and they also save costs. So if we like go into Webflow in a couple of minutes, you see that's really one of the biggest aspects of having a low-code tool is to save actually a couple hours per day into a new project. And I mentioned this term already a couple of times, citizen developers. So every low-code tool and also every no-code tool is enabling like non-technical developers to become citizen developers, and it's also enabling professional developers to be faster, be more efficient, and yeah, most of the low-code tools also enhance like professional developers. I already mentioned like that there is a difference. So now I will show you my understanding and also the understanding of my company, what's the biggest difference between low code and no code. I mean, it's really not similar, but really close to each other. So that the terms are really closely and also like combining like a bigger sphere actually. But real no code for me is like a solution that only has drag and drop. So only what you see is what you get. Maybe talking about the Wix website builder, that would be for me one of the best examples for a no-code solution. You can only drag and drop. You do not have access to the code result. So even if you want to change something like in the HTML and the CSS, or you want to add some JavaScript, so to enhance the functionality, you can't. So this is like a real no-code tool, and you do not have hand coding at all. And this is like the biggest difference between what we classify as low-code tools. So low-code tools are always like a combination. So you have this drag and drop approach, but you also still can add custom code. You still can add like specified CSS. You still can go into the HTML structure, and you can also add like JavaScript for enhanced functionality. And low-code is focusing more on like technical-minded people. So you do not have to be like the best software developer in the world. But to get like a hang of low-code tools, we will also take a look at that in Webflow. You still have to know a little bit about HTML, and you have to know a little bit about classes and how different classes behave to each other. And you have to know about hover states and all this stuff, which you do not have to know if you use like a classic no-code solution, I would say. And it brings me also to the next point, and also to the next presentation. You can integrate existing systems and integrations into this low-code application that you are building. So talking about Zapier, Integromat, doing something with MailChimp. So everything is possible if you connect it on the one hand, like with drag and drop, and on the other hand with code. And you have like the freedom to enhance your low-code tool as much as like a typical software, which is not always possible with classic no-code solutions. So now I will just go through a few examples. In depth, I will, in the next couple of slides, I will talk about Webflow, and also then after this short introduction, I will go directly into the Webflow designer and show you a little bit around there. So what Webflow is essentially is like a beautiful, responsive CMS-driven site builder. So it has a couple of benefits compared to like the typical WordPress or Wix or also like Typo 3 websites. And the benefits mainly are that you have like a real high grade of customization. So the degree of customization is really really high. You can translate like an Adobe XD design pixel perfect into a custom website. And with WordPress, you always have to use the tool as it is. And that's not the case when you use Webflow. You can really go into depth and have like everything pixel perfect developed. Another example would be Shopify. I think most of you know it. Classical low-code tool. You have like a lot of templating. You have some site builders as well. But to get everything out of Shopify, you still have to use a little bit of custom code. Another good example would be VoiceFlow. VoiceFlow is a big player in the field of building custom voice apps. So in the past, building like an Alexa skill is really time consuming and also really, really cost intensive. And with VoiceFlow, this is like kind of automated. You still have what you see is what you get, but to get all of it, you still have to know a little bit about connecting APIs, you know, your head around Zapier, and that's also like a classic low-code tool and not a no-code tool. Connecting like different APIs and tools, we are actually in the next point. Zapier and Airtable, probably also a tool that most of you know, classical low-code tool where you have to know a little bit of technical development, but you still have a lot of like customization opportunities in this low-code field. Another big player would be Thunkable, which is kind of new on the field, on the market, and it makes it possible to build mobile apps. So it has an approach to build like non-native apps, so building on Android and iOS on the same time. And like it's kind of new, but already really, really cool. And another example for Thunkable would be to have Glide, like a Glide apps tool where you can build mobile apps actually. And then a funny one, you can check this out yourself afterwards, is Sheet to Site. That's an approach where you have a Google Sheet and the Google Sheet can be customized and later on gets like translated into a real website. This is more one example for a no-code tool, I would say. So just for you guys to check this out. All of these tools have like free startup plans, also like free trial accounts. So it really makes sense to just go into the documentation, take a look at it, and all these tools, I think when you combine some of them, you can mainly build all the applications that you think about. So there are web apps, shops, apps, planning tools for resources in a company and everything. So this is like really a big feature field that you can build with all of these tools. I won't go into detail in all of them. I will focus on Webflow because this will also be the in-depth presentation I will show you afterwards. We will go into the designer, but for now, to Webflow itself, it was founded in around 2013 or in 2013 by 3 people, and it became one of the most used website and web app builders really quickly, like in a couple of years. It's currently really high funded. I think they just closed a financing round about 70 million at the end of last year, and they really have a high feature output. So if you want to have a tool where you know there are still people working on it and you know that there is a lot of features coming in the future, then Webflow is actually the way to go. And it's really nice that they published that many features. They in the past couple of weeks really improved their e-commerce part, and it's really going to also compete with Shopify in the future. So really one tool to dominate all, I would say. I, for myself, am using Webflow since a couple of years. I also built the website for our own software as a service tool with that. And currently we are working with, I don't know, around 10 to 20 clients each month with building like Webflow sites. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, okay, perfect. So, and what you can do with Webflow, you can, for example, build marketing sites, you can build landing pages, you can build internal repositories, and here are some more examples that you can with Webflow. Is everything that you can start in your browser can be done with Webflow. So we have seen some marketing sites, we have seen learning management systems, which is like a total different field, but I will on the next slide also show you a little bit more about that. Bug trackers, you have the possibility to also do ad landing pages. So if you want to do A and B tests and you want to see like improvements on conversion for different systems, you can build different websites and test them to each other. So there is like really no borders into what you can essentially do with Webflow. It's like everything that can be done in your browser can be done with Webflow. Here is a nice example also for the design from Webflow's internal learning management system, which they also build mostly in Webflow itself. And it really shows that there are no real limits. Like you have filtering, you have searching, you have categories. So it's actually like a real crude application. So you can create, read, update, delete all of the data in there. Everything can be CMS powered. So you really have the opportunity to build fully scaling and fully functioning web apps with this. And yeah, almost every result can be achieved, I would say. So that's really a good tool if you want to learn more into this whole low-code and no-code sphere, to start there. Also, most of you probably have like a technical background, so it will not be hard to understand what's going on there, and really to just have a more in-depth understanding about how this low-code tooling works. Webflow is a really good starting point, and from then on, you can go into the more enhanced tools. Just to name a few, Bubble.io, probably Mendix is also a tool that has like a huge function, a huge feature output, and a huge feature repository, so to say. So that's kind of hard to get into. But with Webflow, the learning curve is kind of low at the beginning, so you still need some time to get into it. But when you know, in a couple of days, when you use the tool, then you can really start building websites and start building web apps from scratch. And with that said, I would go over into Webflow itself. If there are no questions, or are we doing the questions afterwards? Karen, do you have like a preferred way to go?
I mean, if we have general questions to low code, no code, or any discussion around Webflow, like very much into basics before we dive into it, let's have it. If there are questions among members, please feel free to ask.
No, I have no questions since I've been with Webflow like 3 years, and I just want to improve my skills in terms of developing kind of apps for Webflow. That's why I've joined this meetup.
So do you have answers?
For some of them, of course. I'm pretty comfortable with Webflow.
That's nice. What's your general impression of Webflow, of someone who is working 3 years long now?
Well, first I was really very, very excited with the product. As to be honest, there was no other solution like that, and that was must application to use for, I think, every designer who wished this. But I guess since they have released e-commerce, and since they have received some investments from, as Cedrik mentioned, from like 70 million, things started to go a little bit slower. They went towards more like marketing stuff, like what beginners would be interested in, instead of putting more attention to the stuff they really had to do. For example, they still have lots of features which, like, there is a forum where you can click on the wish list and add the feature you want, and there is some stuff like been around for 4 years, like admin panel, filtering, light filtering. Those are like crucial stuff which is missing, and that's why sometimes I have to convert the Webflow websites into WordPress. That's the thing which always like stops me from getting fully into Webflow.
But it doesn't sound healthy, right? Because this market is getting crowded as we speak. New players are entering it, competition is getting harder. It's no time to relax for Webflow. I think they have to like even go stronger, and it sounds like they are went a little bit into marketing. I have no idea about Webflow, but it sounds from your words like this.
Yeah, it is definitely like that, because that's not only my my opinion, and that a lot of people who've been around even for 4 years with Webflow, 5 years, they're a little bit upset with that. But we hope that there will be some major changes, like this kind of. There are actually not a lot we want, but still we are missing them. They, for example, this quarter they released only, if you watch Webflow videos, there are no features. They released only some tutorials for integration stuff with Calendly, with like this kind of stuff. I mean, you can do this by your own if you just open Calendly and embed a form. That's very easy to do. There is nothing like nothing is invented there. You could do this with any other like framework as well. But I think they mostly want to satisfy their investors, probably. So more people, I can see that a lot of people have been joining Webflow. You can see that on Facebook group, which before there were like really professional questions, and then I usually open in the mornings Webflow, and they're like very, very basic questions, how to do. Even people didn't start watching tutorials, so like maybe this Webflow University tutorials. People already ask stupid questions, and that means that this tool is becoming more, let's say, like a Wix type tool. Of course, it's much better, but I mean, the target audience is, I think they mainly focus for people who want just to build a quick website, and that's it. Moreover, if you want to know my opinion, I've been building recently like a big e-commerce website. Big, I mean, like they were like 1,000 of products, and Webflow became very, very laggy. I was like very concerned about this. The team, I sent the tickets to the team, asked what is going on, because we had like 6 people who were editors, and they said that we don't know what's happening, this shouldn't be working like this. So be aware, everyone who wants to build something huge on Webflow with lots of CMS items, just be aware that it will be very, very laggy.
Okay, it sounds promising. Let's give word to Cedrik. Cedrik, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, not like that much. I think one thing that that you always have to keep in mind, if you get an investment of like 70 million, that's a huge sum. And it can be that the feature output is a little bit slower afterwards. So there are a lot of internal processes.
Because you are concerned how to... Sorry,
yeah.
Cedrik, because you are concerned how to spend the money, right?
Yeah, and you also, first of all, have to allocate it, and you want to say, okay, we spent that amount on that feature, and we are hiring that people. So it's I guess for the past weeks or months, also Corona happened, so they focus probably a little bit on internal things, but it's definitely a thing that there are on the wish list a lot of things which also make a lot of sense and are wished by many people, which they didn't develop, and God knows why. But that's actually like a thing. So that's definitely true. But there is also a way to translate the Webflow website then to WordPress. But yeah, I don't recommend this case because you still are losing some functionalities, but it always has its pros and cons. So having like a general opinion here would be wrong. So there are definitely also use cases where you have to translate the website. There are also use cases where you have to convert the website into like a Shopify theme. We also did this in the past, but there are also ways to integrate Shopify into Webflow, so you do not have to use the e-commerce. It's like with all tools and also all topics in the IT field, there is no real way to, or like a 100% correct way to go. There are different opinions and also different ways to solve the problem. So yeah, again, what Elchin said is definitely also a good way to proceed if you are missing some features in Webflow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just wanted to add, if just a small thing. To myself, I consider when you pay for, let's say, e-commerce plan, 80 euro per month.
Yeah.
This is not a small amount. You have the same option in Shopify. Of course, you cannot customize everything the way you want to. That's the very big advantage of Webflow. But 80 euro, you still want to expect a good return in terms of functionality, performance of the website. That's the thing. I think it is just because of Corona. Just because of that, because everything went really slow, and lots of people have been like saying that their websites become laggy, something is not working. It can happen, but they are solving it very, very slowly. I guess that's because of only the COVID situation only. That's all from my side.
Perfect. So I mean, if there are no questions, I would just go over into the designers, so to show you a little bit what you would be working with if you start using Webflow. Also, like just short heads up, I will not go into that much detail because I guess there are also a lot of people who are not experienced with Webflow at all. So probably, especially for Elchin, there will be not that much new content here, but I hope to give everyone like a good overview about some of the features so that you can afterwards see if that would be a tool that you would be using or not. And let me just share another screen. So here we are again in a couple of seconds. So essentially what I did, there is like a huge showcase platform within Webflow. So a lot of people are showcasing their projects, showing what they did in the past. And because most, or actually all projects that we are working are customer projects, I can't show a project that we did on our own. I just picked one which I thought is looking nice and which we can work on for now and just get a little bit more in-depth, in-depth view and in-depth information about how you would proceed on building a website, or also the same process would be if you build a web app with it. So what you can see here now is the finished product of a Webflow website. And you also can see my mouse, I think. And what we have here is like is a typical templating site that you could actually use in building your own project. And if you just scroll here, you actually already see here we have like a nice hovering animation with these two bubbles, colored bubbles. And when we go and scroll down, you still have a lot of animations. These are all interactions. I will go into this in a couple of minutes. And as you can see, it just looks really, really nice. Really a lot of like a feeling of a website that is really alive and not like this static websites which are like more in these Web 1.0 thing where we have like a static WordPress site. What you have with Webflow, which I also really like, is that you always have this feeling of a live website, and you have like also down here this animation of the footer. You always have this this living feel to it. And how would we proceed on building this? This is what I show you now. So first of all, we are actually currently in the Webflow Designer, and if you click on the top left, there is an eye. You are opening the Webflow UI itself. And the most important part here for this whole developing in Webflow, I would say, is the navigator. So what you have here is you have all of your HTML elements, all of your divs, the text blocks, the links, the buttons, all of that can be seen here as one big like a file tree. And if we just look into these Stanbig CSA, like the hero section, what you here have is you have like a section, which in this case is called section. You could also easily go on the right-hand panel where you have all of the customization features, and you can actually already see there is a lot. And for people that are used to work with HTML, you already have like different layout options. You have the flags. You can show things as a grid. You have the inline block. You can here align the spacing, the padding, and the margin, like really pixel perfect. You can say, okay, I don't want to have like 50 here. Let's go for 10. And on the left-hand side in the designer, you have a live result of the changes that you did. And you also have like overflow settings. You can set like min and max width so that you really limit the divs. You have all the classic positioning features here. So for someone who is building WordPress websites and really is like in the drag and drop field, he does not know what sticky alignment is or the sticky positioning. He does not know what fixed positioning is. And he almost always does also not know what overflow settings is. So you see, it's more into this technical sphere, and also with a lot of settings here, you need sometimes to get into it. And for a non-technical person, having box shadows, transformations, transitions would be a little bit too much. And also if we go into transitions, you have stuff like this. You have like ease in settings, ease out settings. So again, all of these are points that show that Webflow is more or less a tool for designers, developers, web developers who want to take their development, I would say, on the next level, onto the next level. And this is mostly like time and speed wise, because most of the times it's faster to just do like opacity settings here than going into the code and type everything. So this is only my opinion. A lot of developers also think that they are faster than going with this range slider, but most of the time it's not. Talking about the settings, let's go back to the navigator. And here you already also see like you have the typical heading tags. So you have H1 heads, you have H3 heads. So everything that you build up here can be also SEO optimized. So you still have to think about, okay, what heading do I want to put there? What heading has which information? So it's still like building a real website. Going into a little bit more detail now, before we go on to further settings. You already have seen, if I just go into here again, there are a lot of settings or a lot of animations going on, especially when you load the websites. The buttons are coming from all of the different sides, makes it feel like a really sophisticated website. And this can be done in Webflow with a setting called interaction. You already see here in the navigation, there is this lightning strike here, and which you can also find here on the top right corner. It's called interactions. I, for myself, find that interactions are one of the most, I would say, innovative and also of the most useful features in Webflow. So everything that we have on the left-hand side, the navigator, and like the dragging and dropping of elements, like this is not really something that's new. And you can also achieve this with the new Wix project Wix Builder, and it's also kind of possible with using Elementor in WordPress. But if you want to have like really custom animations, elements sliding from the left and the right, which is not really custom, you can also do this in WordPress. But having this hover effect where these two colorful dots are like moving with the mouse, this is all done with interactions. And if we take a look here, what happens is that we have like here an on mouse move, like a mouse move over element interaction, which means if I move my mouse over this header element, something should happen. And what should happen is that we have like some kind of header parallax effect. Again, not going into too much detail here with the interactions. What you have to keep in mind, there is like a X action and there is a Y action. So if you move your mouse on the X axis, you can already see here, okay, there is like the heading image is moving. And if you move it on the Y axis, it's moving in another direction, which I find is really well done. It's really easy to understand. You have a lot of settings here. You can also add smoothing in another set, in another setting. So everything that you have here, and when I think about how this would be achieved in custom coding, this is really a lot of time saving. And the interactions itself are, I would say, the most time saving thing in Webflow overall. Also, when we going back into the view of the website, if we have something like here, the two iPhone frames moving like this in this specific direction, we can go into the navigator again and see, okay, it's like the feature image, and we have a big parallax effect here. So this is the parallax effect on the main page. This is an effect that appears to the whole page. So it animates while you are scrolling down through the page. And we are also already in the live preview. You can see here what is happening. The text is moving. And if I think about here again, if we would do this with custom code, it would take a while. Most of the times you also need to compile everything, so you do not have the 100% ready live preview here. And with Webflow, you have both. It's really easy to do, really easy to change the elements here. You can just change targets, you can duplicate. So interactions, essentially, I would say, are the most time-saving tool which Webflow provides. All of the stuff on the navigation, like adding new elements, is also really easy. If we press Command E, you can just add a new heading, which will also be done live. You can drag and drop everything, which is also really a nice way to do. If we, okay, the screen is a little bit too small. If we, like so, now you see here is we have a heading. You can go in there and you can say it's new heading. Another big point in customizing the text. Now we have added heading new as a text, and we can also provide for our customers an editor version of the website, so they do not have to log into Webflow and they do not have to use this technical layout of the designer. They have like a really minimized layout, only a couple of features, and it's possible for the content creator or also for the customer to change all of the text, change all of the images. So if they want to have new text here, a new heading, they go into the designer, change the text, and the animation is still working, which is also really nice. If we think about maintaining a website, improving SEO settings, improving texts, having new copywriters on board who want to change some things up. This is all possible with the Webflow editor, which I will not go into detail today because it's really easy to understand and mostly a customer tool. What I also wanted to show is the page settings. So a big point also in using WordPress is that you have to use like some SEO tools, like you have to use plugin here, plugin there. So in the end, you have this one WordPress entity and you use 10 to 15 plugins. Can get crowded. Also, you have to maintain all the plugins if there is a new version coming up, if someone is changing something to their documentation, something to the API. You always have to be on the website or at least near the client. If something breaks, you have to fix it. Webflow has one big point that a lot of features you have with WordPress and also with Wix, they have it built in. So if we are here in the page settings, what you can do is you have like the possibility to add the meta description, you have the possibility to add the title tag, you can customize all of the open graph settings, so everything is like SEO conform, everything is like kind of SEO optimized, or if you want to optimize it even more, you just go into here and create some new tags, create some new open graph description, really easy to do, and also implement it into the tool itself, which is really nice. Another big part of the settings tab here is the custom code section. So I already presented you in the low code versus no code, or in the general overview, what for me is one of the big points of low code compared to no code. So here it's possible to directly go into the code and add something there. So you can actually trigger the CSS classes on your website, and it will actually also override stuff. So if you want to have this H3 heading here and you don't want to have it in size 34, you can go into the head tag, add a CSS style component there, and just go along, write your custom code. It's also possible to what we did in the past, because there are some limitations to the code. You can host like a gist on GitHub or something elsewhere. You just connect it with some hosting CDN service, paste the URL here, so you just have one URL, and from then on it's it's easy to just point your Webflow custom code section to some file hosted on GitHub, and there you can add code, add CSS, add HTML. So really the customization part of Webflow is insane if you think about what you can achieve with all of the code that can be added here. The next big part is the CMS. So for this project, we do not have CMS because it's not hosted. So we do also do not want to go into that much detail because it's quite sophisticated again, and it will take a couple of minutes to present you everything. So I would just say a couple of words to the CMS. Like, it's really a nice tool to make your website also data-driven. It works a little bit different than for example, WordPress CMS, because it enables you to also connect tools like Zapier and everything. So you can really populate the CMS from a different source, which is nice. But what you also can do is you can use this CMS more like a database. So if you think about some informations that you have, or that have to be shown repeatedly on your website, you have the CMS. You can go into the CMS. You can start adding like a list of meetups. So if you want to show meetups and new meetups, you can connect Zapier. I think we will talk about this also later on a little bit more in depth. You can connect Zapier, pull the data into your own website via the CMS, and from then on have like the website database populated, which is really, really handy and really nice to have. We will also provide a blog post in a couple of weeks about the CMS. So I really recommend to check out our website and the blog posts that we will provide there. Yeah, that's I think everything about the CMS that I will provide today. Going to one of the last parts, because I don't want to about all of the features today, but one of the biggest points is also the code export. So you see it's currently disabled because like we are in a read-only mode, but you can imagine the code export as a way to export like the whole website in HTML, CSS code, which is essentially a feature to export the website to your own hosting. So if you say you do not want to spend the $50 US, or if you have some hosting provider already, or if you are like a coding person and you want to go in depth into your own web page and you really want to own the code, then you can just export everything. It gets totally disconnected to Webflow. You have everything in your own hands, and from then on you can customize everything to your specific needs. So Webflow really qualifies for a perfect example for a low-code solution, because it's like a real mix between coding and what you see is what you get. So with that said, I would finish the presentation now. I'm happy to answer all of your questions again. I will end the presentation here and just open one more, once again, another slide. Because as I already said, what we do is also, we are developing low-code solutions. We are also consulting all of you if you have to use a no-code solution in your work environment. And if you have any questions regarding Webflow, regarding Zapier, we have a blog where we also provide Webflow 101 guides in the future, and everything Webflow related and also low-code in general related, I'm happy to answer now or afterwards, also via email. Yeah, and with that said, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to receive further questions to the whole topic now or via mail. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Cedrik. And one can say that you are German. You finished exactly at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very exact. Thank you. It was a great presentation, gave a very good overview of the whole thing. The site looked like magical, you know, everything is moving here and there. Very cool. I have no idea how to implement it with CSS.
That's the point. That's also what I wanted to give everything. Like there are limitations, but if you think about the big interactions part of Webflow, this is, I would say, the most time-saving feature. So that's why I wanted to show this mainly. And it also goes in depth a lot more. So there, I only showed like 2 or 3 options of building interactions. And there are 10 different interactions already, or different interaction triggers, I would say. So it is huge. The learning curve at the beginning is quite low, and it gets really steep in the end. So if you have questions, if you want to see some how-to videos, if you want to have in-depth guidance, everything, just shoot me an email, and I'm happy to answer all of your questions, also in private afterwards, or if someone has a question now, yeah, just keep asking. I'm happy to give you more perspective into the whole topic. Or if not, we can also go on with the next presentation.
Yeah, but I think after this massive invitation, Cedrik, from you, I think people need to ask at least a couple of questions. Come on, Paul.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question from the next presenter here. So you said that you found that on the showcase.
Yeah.
So it's like completely clonable, right? Or how do we like? I'm actually like, so I was looking at it. The designer did a really good job.
Yes.
So I think maybe like you could tell people how they can like clone. So for example, like you were able to basically get the designer of, what's the name of the designer? Would you happen to know?
Yeah, just let me take a look, because I can also.
Yeah. Like, I think maybe people would want to know how to be able to clone, just so that, you know, it's like a really good jumping off point for learning how to build like beautiful animation like that too.
So I just shared the link in our chat. I also can share my other Chrome tab again, because that's really easy to clone. First of all, what you obviously need to have is a Webflow account. Webflow accounts are free. It only starts to cost a little bit each month if you want to use their hosting as well. So Webflow, also one of the most insane things is that they have a big resource page. It's called Showcase. This specific one I just found by accident, so to say. I just posted the link into the chat. You can just click on it, and if you have an account, it's really easy. You can just clone a lot of these Showcase projects. Click on here, and it's already there a new button for the creation of the project, which makes it really nice to have something as a starting point. There are also that many resources in building custom sliders, having cool hover animations, having cool loading animations. So there is actually quite a big community already, where you do not have to build everything from scratch. So if you are fine with having something alike, and it always worth to take a look into this Showcase projects. First of all, you should Google if you have questions, if you have an idea for a website. A lot of people already did what you guys are thinking about. That's one thing for sure. It's the same as if you're going to start a new coding project. Almost all things are already on Stack Overflow, and it's the same with Webflow. So just go into webflow.com/discover. These are the showcases, and if you find a showcase that you really like, you can view the project. Not all of them are clonable, but they have like this button here, and you just clone it into your own repository, and from then on you can just start working with it. You can also go into here and comment on the specific on the specific project to ask the creator specific questions. That's a really nice resource also for you guys, for all of you to get started.
Awesome, thanks. I just thought it would be like really cool to be able to know where it's from. Yeah. Clonable templates are like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also posted a link to the Flow-based website. This is the one I use a lot. If you guys need some like ready-made navigation, CTAs, and everything, they have almost everything. Just my first place to go when I start a new project. And just wanted to add that Webflow for me became also like a prototyping tool. Since I've mastered Webflow, in a way I think I've mastered, I stopped using Adobe XD, and yesterday I tried to do something on Figma, and my ideas like were coming quickly, and I thought like Figma is a little bit slow for this, and actually Webflow became much faster to just make a prototype.
Yeah, that's right. We also have some clients, also bigger corporate clients, who sometimes, understandably want to develop everything in-house, and they also want to host their websites on their own secured servers, and they really want to, or actually need to, own the code and own the website. And for them, we also offer prototyping services, because exactly as Elchin said, it's a really nice tool for prototyping, for showing the client also how it would look on a real browser. And the clients always like to type in a real URL and already see a real project. They like it more than just looking at a sketch file. So that's also a really good use case to just use Webflow as prototyping. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else from any one of you?
Okay, I think it's about time to move to our second amazing speaker. But before we do it, I want to point out that we have a Google form. I just posted it into the chat. You can fill it out with your name and your email, and everyone who is attending this webinar will also receive from us certificates of attendance. So fill it out meanwhile, and I'm giving the stage to Miko right now, our second amazing speaker.
Perfect. I don't know about amazing, but thanks. That was a really cool and really thorough presentation by Cedrik. And so what I'm going to be focusing on right now is, so I don't have a slide or anything like that, but I will kind of show you guys a practical way to combine Integromat, which I will talk about, excuse me, which I'll talk about a little bit, and then we can jump right into the builder, right? So we're combining Webflow and Integromat to kind of produce a lot of functionality without ever having to touch any code. So just to be clear, Integromat is not a no-code product. It can be no-code, but a lot of the time to really get the full punch, you need to do some low-code work like HTTP calls. So today we're doing something that doesn't involve that. Let me just share my screen here. Let me see how I can do that. Okay. Perfect. All right, cool. Can you guys see my screen, or is it?
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So quick background on what we do. I am the founder of Dorsata. And what we do is we automate work, and we basically do something super similar to Cedrik, except like our focus is not on designing websites, although we do that, but our focus is on making sure that human beings and people on your team don't spend their time on repetitive work, and that can focus on things that require creativity, and that require the things that people and humans are best at doing, and leave the other stuff to the robots, right? Or Integromat. So yeah, and also kind of part of my own personal crusade in no code and low code is making sure that bigger companies know that, or at least like the idea of no code and low code isn't that this is just for independent or small business owners or startup founders and teams, but big companies, big Fortune 500 companies can also feel free to use it. So an example of a Fortune 500 company that we're working with is Vodafone, and they've kind of really embraced the idea of, okay, like no code is actually a really efficient way to push out high function without kind of investing too much time into something. So yeah, if you guys are interested in anything to do with automation or web and making sure that it has a ton of functionality, then I'm happy to speak with you as well. Cool. So I'm just going to jump right in here. So everything on this website, and I'm going to use kind of our own. So similar to Cedrik, we build things for clients, and so I can't necessarily show you how they work on the back end, but I can show you how we walk the talk. So everything on this website, or all the interactions, are connected in some way with Integromat, which I will explain in a bit. But if you put in your email address here, if you subscribe to a newsletter all the way at the bottom, if you go over to a free consultation and you kind of get in touch, then this is also part of it. All of this stuff is connected in some way with Integromat, and we have a response to make sure that we are moving in the way that we want to move when someone kind of approaches us from a specific form. Cool. So what is Integromat? Well, Integromat is a automation builder. It creates and connects different applications together. It enables you to transform the data that comes from specific from apps, and then it is able to process them and then produce a specific output. Some really popular alternatives, which in my opinion are much more deficient than Integromat. So Integromat is very likely the best-in-class tool for automation, but it's kind of the more complex and a little harder to learn. But when you do kind of get over that initial speed bump, the payoff is massive, and it's just so powerful. So it kind of does things that Zapier tries to do, but it just does it in a much more powerful, much more customizable way. Whenever I talk about the difference between Integromat and Zapier and Webflow and Wix, it's kind of an analog, right? So Wix and Zapier are kind of in the same bucket of, you can put anything together and it's going to work. But if you really, really want to take it to the next level, then you move to Webflow and you move to Integromat. So yeah, awesome. So it's really pretty simple, and I'm going to do something real quick here. So you can just, you add modules here, and they have a bunch of functions. And I'm not going to get too much into it because this tool kind of really begs a lot of self-exploration. But I will kind of build something out super quickly so that you guys can see just the kind of function it has. All right, so what we're doing today is this is actually something that we use. We started hiring a lot of people recently just because, with the demand from COVID-19 and people wanting to bring things to the cloud and make things automated and make sure that operations are running smoothly. We've had to answer that with a lot of automation. So we were hiring automation consultants recently, and how do you deal with a large influx of applicants when you don't have an HR or hiring team traditionally, right? We're not like a huge team. There's like 6 of us. So what we decided to do is, hey, like let's automate everything. So all the way to the bottom of this quick kind of like job post is an application form, and let me just go over to this page here. So this is just a temporary email because it'll just make it easier. But if I copy this email and I, say I'm applying, right? So tester with test face, email address, my phone number. That's not a phone number. Do I have any experience? No, I don't. Why are you interested in working with us? Give me money. Cool. All right. So I'm going to send in this application and I'm going to use this email address. And when I hit submit, it's received, right? And in Webflow, normally you just get an email to the web owner's email saying that, hey, someone submitted something to your form. You should probably do something about this. But what we've done is we've connected this with Integromat. And so over here in this temporary email, if I refresh it, cool, it should show up with, there you go. So this is an email, an automated email from my co-founder. And it contains an automated email with tester McTestface in the header, just explaining what he is, who he is, and what we do, and also kind of a link to a Calendly, right? Where it has the information. So for example, it has the name here in the URL parameter, and it has the email. And it has kind of like a a setting. So the applications are closed, and so there are no more times left here. But yeah, that was a pretty seamless and zero effort way to kind of make sure that people are able to schedule times on your calendar, and you're able to respond to them really rapidly. And that all ran inside Webflow and Integromat, and didn't really require any code. Yeah, so let me actually just go over real quick what that thing looks like. This is a pretty simple, I would say intermediate flow or scenario. And I can just run this real quick. Maybe I'll put this over to the side and do this one over here. Nope, not that. Okay, let's refresh this. And I will run this at the same time, just so that you guys can kind of see it side by side of how it works. So let me just fill this back in with all that information. All right, and I'm going to hit run once on this just so that we can kind of see the data following a path. When I hit submit, the Webflow module inside Integromat catches that, right? It got the data. It sent me an email. It added me to the Google Sheet of all the applications, and it created a message saying that, hey, like someone applied and this is their information, so that our team is aware that someone applied. But we had to do nothing. We just basically got informed. And when I go into the temporary email, I think I closed it. Yeah, I can just do that again. When I go into my temporary email, I can see that, cool, okay, another email was sent out, and this time it was to this name right here. Awesome. So I can go over kind of this more complex automation, but for now, I'm actually going to build it in front of you guys. It'll take like 5 minutes, maybe not 2 minutes, that's a bit dramatic. But it'll take 5 minutes, and I'll build it out, and you guys can kind of see if that gives you any ideas. If you want to use Integromat and build something using Webflow and Integromat, that would be a really cool result of that. Awesome. So I'm going to, yeah, and also just so that you guys know, this is kind of what it looks like inside. The application page is pretty basic, and it doesn't include any kind of fancy, form changes to the way the form works, right? So if I can just grab the form here, there you go. So you can see that I'm not using a custom redirect URL. I'm not using a custom action. All I'm doing is using the default Webflow notification, and Integromat is already able to pick up on that because they have a Webflow module. Cool. So yeah, let me just build one real quick here. So the way that you would actually normally do this is you would first add a Webflow module, and you're watching for events, right? So this triggers when an event occurs, and the event we're looking for here is a form submission. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I'm going to choose, you can normally add, and it's a really simple process. You're basically just connecting your Webflow account to Integromat. So I'm going to hit OK on that, and I'm going to do something like a really simple email, right? So if someone someone sends in a contact message, I want to be able to send them an email. And so again, another connection here, just with the Gmail. So I'm connecting my Gmail account to Integromat. I'm going to, okay. So first, we would need to run this just so that we can see the data, right? So I'm going to use the Contact Us page just to make it a bit easier, and use the fake email address. This is a test contact message. Please, or Integromat is pretty cool. Sweet. Cool. All right. If I hit submit on this, that should be submitted. And when I go over into my new integration, I'll see all that information here. So in the data section, you've got the contact name, you've got the contact's email, you've got their subject, and you've got their message, as well as just some other information here. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that when I get sent an email like that, or sorry, when someone sends me a form, I can reply to them instantly, right? So I'm going to put their email in the email address for a recipient. I am going to add a subject of regarding your subject, and then I'm just going to say something like, hey, this is an automated message. And what's really cool about this, the content is actually HTML customizable. So Integromat really allows you to, so that's kind of where, you kind of breach into the code. So that's how Integromat kind of works as both a no-code and a low-code tool, is you can do things completely no-code, like I'm doing right now, like right in front of you guys. But if you see the automation that I built for the team, we actually use HTML for our email just because it gives us a lot more control. But here I'm not going to choose to do that, and I'm just going to go with really simple. And that's it. So literally, this already works, and it's already an instant reply to someone who messages you on your website. So if I hit run once on this, just to test it out, the next time that I have someone contact me using the temporary email, so let's do a subject. Another subject is, waffles are pretty cool. Can you automate the creation of a waffle? Great. So I'm going to submit this message, and when that is sent out, I should get an email with, there you go. So it's from me and my email. It's regarding waffles are pretty cool. And inside the email, hey, this is an automated email. So on the Integromat side, it took the information from Integromat and it sent them an email. And from there, the sky's the limit. If you want to connect this to a MySQL instance and save it, you can also, I believe there's Postgres. You can do anything you want with this Airtable, and unlike Zapier, There can be an unlimited number of routes. So if you want like 1 million different ways to respond to this request, you can do that. Really, sky's the limit from there, but that's all I'm gonna show today. So yeah, super simple and very, very feature packed and really powerful. So combining Webflow and Integromat will allow you to create interactions with Webflow and be able to engage people who visit the website in a really meaningful and a really automated way. Yeah, cool. So that's all that I have today. And if you guys have any questions, I believe either my email or the website is on the meetup page, and so you can just like check that out and let me know. Feel free to just reach out, and I'm happy to always have a conversation about automation. We can geek out over it and figure some stuff out. So yeah, thanks.
So everyone feel free to ask questions and have a discussion around it. I think it looks like really very interesting what you can do with both tools, and I'm pretty impressed with Integromat, but I will give a word to our attendees to ask questions.
Mike, I will be your next customer. I need something to automate.
Perfect.
But probably in Parabola, because there are like lots of items. I think Integromat is just for some single events and.
Right.
Do you do
Yeah,
also
thanks a
something
lot.
for Parabola?
Sorry, I can't hear you very clearly.
Sorry, I'm asking if you are also familiar with Parabola.
Parabola.io, the automation tool.
Yeah.
So I have tried using it. You know, there's something about your first love in Integromat that brings you back. So, but I am familiar with Parabola, but I always end up going back to Integromat and Webflow. The marriage between those two things is just so seamless.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a stupid question, Miko. I don't know if you like it.
I love this question.
I was just wondering if using the Webflow and Integromat, you can theoretically build an infinite loop, right? You fill in the form in Webflow, it sends an email, and that can also maybe trigger again automatically filling in the form again, which will trigger the sending of email again. So theoretically, you can have an infinite loop, right?
No, actually, so for this specific, I'll actually go back to sharing my screen. I think that's useful. So the short answer is no, it is not possible. And the reason for that is you closely define the input and the output. Okay, so I guess like if you wanted to trigger an infinite flow, you could. Don't do that. But if you wanted to, you could. But the thing that makes Integromat really cool is that you really carefully decide what the input and the output is. So in this case, I'm watching for events in Webflow, and it specifies what those events are, right? So here, so it triggers when one of the following events occurs: a forum submission, a site is published, a new e-commerce order, right? So interactions, basically. And so those are the only things that will ever trigger this flow, and those are the only like data points that it will ever capture. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thanks a lot. I understood that it will be then out of scope of all the possible inputs, and then would not trigger anything. Yeah, I've got the answer. Thanks, Miko.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen also some examples when with the Integromat, when people submit a form, it creates a new item in your CMS collection. And that is really cool for some useful cases, which like made me wow. it's so cool. So like your users can actually create some new like collection items and anything you can think of. This is really cool. Do you have any kind of that examples, Mike?
Yeah, so actually that's so I can't really show it because it's still in progress, but creating CMS items. So for everyone here, I think I don't know if Cedrik had gone into CMS in detail, but a CMS is basically a way to you know, a very like a way to explain it by not doing it justice is it basically enables blogs on your site, right? But that is the tip of the iceberg. A CMS is basically being able to dynamically control content on a Webflow page. I wonder if I can show you guys how. No, well, it's kind of hard to show what a CMS looks like if you don't have an example. But yes, Integromat can create and can customize the content on the site, and you can do it dynamically. So one example of this is, say you have a proposal that you want to send to someone, and you can just tell them, hey, like go to mydomain.com/yourcompany, and you're going to see a proposal that's specifically for your company, and all the content items there were generated by Integromat. So that's actually something that's pretty possible.
Yeah.
So what I want to ask both of you guys, both speakers, maybe we can touch upon a little bit of these free tiers which are available, as far as I know, with both Integromat but also Webflow. And maybe, I don't know, do we want to start with Integromat or Webflow? What is possible with the free tier? What are the boundaries? Because after this call, I guess some of our members will just go ahead and try it out. And at the very beginning, I'm pretty sure not everyone is ready to invest any money just to play around, you know, in a sandbox environment. So maybe we can elaborate.
I can speak to Integromat's free tier. So the free tier is actually pretty powerful. You can do 1,000 calculations. I think it's 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 calculations or operations per month. And be able to transfer, I think, like 1 gig of data. I've never hit that limit of 1 gig, but the operations, I think, is where you'll find you want to upgrade. But I do actually, so now that you mention it, so I'm an agency partner at Integromat, and you know, we have a special link that we can share with people that will basically kind of help them, you know, get started on Integromat when they, you know, as clients basically. But if you guys want to, you know, use it, it'll basically give you guys a month free of Integromat. Of the basic plan, which is like 10,000 operations. So yeah, if you guys want access to that, then feel free to shoot me an email, and I would be happy to provide you that.
Yeah, Miko, is it something what we can share also in the description to the video, to the follow-up video, or is it like it should supposed to be like requested, then you will generate it or whatever?
Yeah, so so let me actually just reach back to, I'm not sure if it's something that, like, you know, the terms are that it can be posted in public, because it is meant for kind of, yeah, similar to what you said. Let me see if there's a way to be able to make it publicly available. Yeah. But as far as I know, like, yeah, you can reach out to me and then we can get you something.
Great, yeah. Cedrik, do you want to elaborate a little bit on this free tier with Webflow, maybe?
Yes, I can do that. So the free tier actually is like, it's only for private projects. So if you, as I said, if you want to host a project with Webflow, then you have to do you have to upgrade to paid plan of theirs. But the free plan is enough for experiencing like up to 2 projects. So you can clone a project, you can customize a project, and another benefit is that you can host all the projects on the webflow.io domain. So your website .webflow.io, it's actually possible to even host the website with the free plan. But if you want to have your own branding on it, if you want to have hosting on it, then you have to upgrade to a hosting plan. Like, the structure is a little bit complicated. They have hosting plans and private plans. Private plans are free forever. It only costs if you want to have like around 10 projects. But for me, even as an agency, we have a team account, and my private account is still in the free plan. I can work on 2 projects private simultaneously. So essentially, Webflow itself as a tool is kind of free forever. Only if you want to provide something for the customers or for your own hosting, then you have to pay, starting around, I think, $15 for the basic hosting. But again, to experience the tool, the free plan is really well planned for all the needs. So I really recommend to just sign up, start the free tier. If you have questions, come back to me via email or something. And from then on, you can really experience as long as you want in the free plan. And then when you are ready to host a website, then you start adding the hosting plan to it. So essentially, Webflow is kind of free forever.
I think just a couple of the important limitations that you cannot have your own domain. You cannot attach your own domain. It's a subdomain. It will be blah blah your website and then .webflow.com, right?
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, this is like the only limitation, I would say.
And the second one, I think they will put, go ahead, Miko.
Yeah, I would pipe up though about just Webflow and the free version. Is just such a much better alternative than Wix, right? So Wix will put a massive banner on the top of your site where it's super prominent and it's super gross looking. But Webflow's free version only adds like a small like little tag at the bottom right, and it's even like a little aesthetic. And so like, you know, every time I need to show a client kind of what their website will look like, I don't hesitate to show them, you know, the Webflow version without the paid hosting yet, because they really ever don't notice that it's, you know, hosted on Webflow, because they don't put a huge ugly banner the way that Wix does.
Yeah, especially for prototyping, it's really good to only use the free plan, as Miko said.
Yeah,
it's really nice. It's kind of free forever, so I recommend all of you to try it out.
Mike, can I ask you one technical question? Maybe you have more experience on that. I will show my screen if it's possible.
Yeah, feel free to present. There is a button on the bottom right corner. Okay. Present now. Go for it.
So I have a website with products in it, and in Integromat I've created like list items, and I just put a tool not to list all of them, then get one item, and then export it to Google Sheets. The problem is that as a result, I get this hex codes over here, and I don't know how to deal with them. As far as I understand, those are the codes because those are multi-reference fields, and Integromat just doesn't show me the value of those fields. It shows me only the IDs. How it's possible to deal with them?
Yeah, so sure. Just if you click the output bubble above the get item, if you could just do that real quick. All right, so this is where you'll see all the data that it outputs. And so you want to be able to select something that, you know, select a piece of it that is human readable, right? So this isn't for all tools. For some reason, Webflow is really obsessed with non-human readable ID. Most other tools are super, readable. But yeah, for Webflow specifically, you want to choose the variable that is meant for reading. Because it looks like you're exporting the IDs. But yeah.
Yeah, and is there a way, a workaround, how just to, for example, to show just one multi-reference field as a readable, human readable value, not this code?
Yeah, so you would just so for some of these values, for example, they should be human readable, and you would just select. It really depends on how you build your, because it looks like you're doing collection items. So this is more of just you building out your CMS. That's kind of what it's based on.
Yeah, that's true. But the question is there any I don't know, a parser or something like that, which I put in between get item and Google Sheets, so it can convert the rows into these cells into human readable values.
Sure. We might be getting into territory that's a bit advanced for this call, but I believe you normally don't need a parser. Like that's I've personally not come across needing a parser for Webflow and the Google Sheets integrations. You just need to pull the either the correct pieces of data from Webflow CMS, or be able to just set up your CMS so that it looks human readable.
They don't look like.
Well, it looks like the tax category is human readable, and then also there's a description.
Yeah, only the fields which I will show you, only the fields which are text fields or like option fields, those are readable. And as I have let me show you, I have like hundreds, I have almost 7 multi-reference and reference fields here. Those are not readable. You cannot read them.
Okay. So that's really how you set up your CMS. So multi-reference, because multi-reference is an internal thing, then it's tagged to the ID of that collection category. I would take the ID of that collection category and then do a switch function inside Google Sheets. But yeah, if we're getting into, I think we're getting into murky waters. Yeah, but I'm happy to kind of review that with you and then obviously figure something out.
Sure, I will like you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, guys, get connected. We have LinkedIn profiles in the description of this event on Meetup of both speakers. Get connected with each other and with them as well. Yeah, do we have any other questions or topics to discuss?
I guess we have Linda in call. I think if we have Linda in call, she always has a question, right, Linda?
No questions. It's very
okay,
interesting, and
I just wanted to hear your voice,
I know. I like sometimes to be just listening. It was a great workshop, and I really appreciate it, guys, for putting up all this great stuff for us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Karen, I just have maybe one last question to Cedrik. If you think about code which is generated by Webflow by doing stuff with drag and drop and in this what you see is what you get interface, and compare this code with one which you would produce when you code yourself everything from the scratch. Is the difference that huge? You probably know this problem it's well known with content management systems that they always generate too much code, and then you have to sometimes you just wondering how to have it lighty, not heavy weighted.
Yeah, I know that. I know what you mean. Well, it actually depends. Well, the point is that everyone has like their own style in writing code. Also with the former startup I did, we experienced that problem. It was always the question, how is the code quality? Do we need to reduce the code? Like, do they produce too much code? And I think Webflow did a good job, but it can only work with the UI that you have developed, I would say. So if you go into Webflow and just create a couple of divs and they are called div block 1, div block 2, div block 3, then you add the CMS to it and everything is really clustered and you don't know, what variable, what class is doing which feature, and you don't know what is like the hero section and everything. So really, you have to build up the architecture in the visual designer. So if you want to export the code, you always have to keep in mind, you can always export the code quality is only as good as you have designed it. Also, it means that you have to get rid of all the CMS fields that you do not need. So if you have like CMS fields that are not needed because you used a template or something, obviously it's too much code and you have to reduce it. But other than that, from my experience, it's not too bad. I know a couple of people who really adopted the style of Webflow's code export, and I know other people who say, okay, it's like you have to reduce it a couple of times and you have to get rid of a couple of lines of code. But again, if the work in Webflow that you did is really good and really you think about before you start working in Webflow that you want to export the code and you really do give it a good naming, a good site structure, and also keep this in mind in the CMS, then the code quality is really good. But it gets only as good as you developed, so to say, it in Webflow itself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cedrik. It's clear.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey.
Ben, do you want to add something, ask something?
I want to add something. It's more about, hello everybody. Thank you for this webinar. My question is more about exporting the code. When you export the code, what about the programming language that is used at the basic level at Webflow when we export the code?
Can you, what exactly do you mean? Like, can you repeat that?
What I mean is about exporting the code. When we export the code, we want to know later about the programming language that is used in the Webflow level.
Oh, so that's like typical HTML and CSS.
Okay.
But also a lot of JavaScript, I guess, right?
Yes. For the interactions, so everything that you've seen where elements are hovering in and everything, they're in classic JavaScript. So
once we export the code, can we customize it and having the ability to send it to the server and to be accepted?
So there is no backwards connection. So if you customize something in the HTML code that you have exported, there is no backwards connection to the Webflow designer. But it obviously is possible if you exported it. It's like your own code. You can customize everything. You can delete elements. You can add custom JavaScript code. So everything, it's really disconnected to the project when you have exported it. So everything that you want to do from that point onwards, you can do everything. Yeah.
But then a question, is this word exporting is applicable here at all? I would call it publishing. It's
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, good point. They use the term publishing for publishing on their webflow.io domain. So if you have not used a hosting plan, or if you publish it to a custom domain that you have attached. Actually, it could be also called publishing to custom server or something. It is a publishing, but in Webflow mind, and also like it kind of is marketing terms. They do not want to publish. They do not want to promote the custom export or the code export, because that's when they are losing revenue because you do not host it with them. So calling it publishing on custom server or something would then result in getting less revenue. So like you're right, it's just a term. It could also call it custom publishing, definitely.
Although, just to chime in here, exporting code on Webflow is not free, I believe. You need an account plan. And an account plan is basically 2 website plans in its value. I think it's $30 a month. So
the point is,
but
there the point is that you, if you do not want to do a lot of changes on the Webflow page, you buy it once, export the site, so it's not that they get recurring revenue and that it is a subscription for the next 12 months or something. Code export, you do not can do it with a free account. You need to have like, I don't know the name right now, but you have to purchase a higher account plan, but actually only once you can export it, and then you could cancel the plan as well.
Yeah, it is a $16 account, I guess. The light one, where you can export the code.
Nice.
Now it makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question like to throw into discussion. What do you guys think about kind of open source, open concept of low code, no code platform or tool set? Because it seemed to me that whatever provider or vendor this tool is coming from, it's a kind of a little bit also conflict of interest, because then they try to stick all the customers to their service, you know, to host it on their environment. You cannot, like, you can basically take it and deploy somewhere else, but then you have to like kind of buy your freedom, you know, you have to pay for this, and maybe there are some other restrictions. What do you think about it? Like,
Karen, Karthik here. I was working for a product company before this, before my current cloud thing, and it was a BPM company. We build BPM products like IBM BPM. So in that, there are several rule engine cases like Drools, a free rule engine. So in that, they bought this low code, but this low code is for the people at the level of analyst and the top level people who really want to change the business rules, business conditions, but who doesn't have the coding capabilities. So this overall no code revolution, it's all for that set of people. I believe that was the use case which I have seen in my experience. So, thank you.
okay, anyone knows any open source kind of community-driven platform or tool set for creating solutions, but without like marrying one of the vendors?
I just did a simple Google search for open source, no code, low code solutions, and it yields some results, some promising results actually.
Any buzzwords or name?
Not in the ad section.
Okay.
Below the ad section.
Like clear that.
Like Choget, for example. Choget no-code, low-code platform. Choget is an open source, no-code, low-code application platform for faster, simpler digital transformation, etc.
Right,
but
it kind of do forsake the visual quality by quite a bit, which I guess is like, you know, is the story of open source anyway.
Yes, there are. At some point, you always have some drawbacks, let's say, in community-driven open source projects. Yeah. But maybe functionality-wise could be sufficient enough. Who knows?
On one side, it is true that some software, open source software, is often not supported as well. It's not driven by vision as well, because there is no much incentives behind these developers to make it a great product. But on the other side, you know, if you have very strong interest from the community and enough of eyeballs on something, it often results in amazing stuff. And as a result, you can see like almost the whole internet is run by open source, right? Like there are very strong operating systems out there, but still like we pretty much, even almost all solutions like what companies are using, they're very frequently using a lot of either tools to develop their solutions from open source toolset, or even some portions of the products are based on open source. So yeah, I was just thinking about it, you know, obviously there's nothing like this. We hear Bubble, we hear Webflow. Now this business solutions are coming up also from Amazon, but not yet anything what I could hear from the open source movement yet.
Yeah, Karen. I just got I did some recent Google searches. Now I saw a lot of products coming up in low code and no code, but all these are majorly focused on a BPM domain, business processing applications and workflows and business processing. This seems to be like that product domain requires more low code and no code. And this could also be the selling point for the products, like if you see. So the open source contribution for low code and no code is pretty low, but for the proprietary softwares, like this seems to be the selling point, where BPM systems are exposed to majority of non-technical people. So that was my view.
Right.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good point. Yeah, a lot of it is process automation and geared towards scaling. Yeah.
Also, I think there is a dilemma here, where to create this kind of no-code, low-code platform, open source one, you would need to involve developers, right? Like open source developers. And the developers already know how to code, and probably they are even enjoying to code. That's why they would spend their free time for kind of open source projects. But then why they have to go and create something what they're not probably not very interested in, right? It's a kind of yeah.
It's just a like contribution, but for example, I've been looking for a 3D software. For example, most of you would know that Cinema 4D and other Maya or other ones. And one of the best ones which people recommend is the Blender, which is an open source, open code platform, like an application software. And people say that it's much more better in terms of how many updates they issue per month. And I was really shocked at how many developers have spent time, hours, weeks developing this, and this is for free. And then I got to the point that when you have something like open source, there are always other companies who are interested to develop a plugin or some components and then to sell them, and then maybe they can use all those developers for some future projects. I don't know why would they contribute them. Like I would do myself also, just because I can do this. If I could code like those developers, I would contribute as well. But it's lots of time they waste, and it's really fascinating.
Which software did you just mention?
The one is Blender.
The 3D modeling software.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, for example, what I'm also preferring over the commercial 3D modeling, rendering solutions, and so on. So this is a really good example, yes, for a very successful open source.
Yeah,
application.
It's amazing. Elchin, thank you very much. It's an amazing example. They're killing their niche, you know. and almost I think every 3D designer is using nowadays, and you can do crazy things. Like look at on YouTube, look for what they can do with Blender, even integrate it into movies. You know, everything possible. It's amazing.
Yes, major movie studios are working with Blender today.
Yeah. And we wish that something could appear also in web industry as well, like something like Webflow, but open source, where everyone can contribute to that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, hopefully the world is becoming more connected and open. I think it's a general trend, and I personally a very big advocate of open source. That's why I think this is no other way other than we will be moving as humankind into this and technology into low code, no code. Obviously, there are tasks to be solved. A lot of us have ideas which have to be implemented, but because it's such to know programming, like back in the days, you had to know C programming, assembly language. You know, it was a huge. I mean, I used to develop stuff in different languages, but I could never grasp assembly. It's just such a complicated thing for me, you know. But we will be, I think, moving into direction of citizen developers, like business people, visionaries who have ideas, but they don't have to hire anymore, like developer teams. I think it's a very good trend, guys. Watch it and try this Webflow out. It just seemed to be one of the leading platforms out there in this direction. But I strongly suspect there will be more traction coming from different companies, maybe from the community itself. Let's see.
I wonder if Google could do that, because it will be like more and more people would create websites and advertise them on Google. Why not to do this?
It's a very good point. I think smart, big, and digital companies like Google, they already have a track record of creating technologies and throwing it out to the community to support. Like look at Kubernetes and many other technologies like Angular, and they will even commit some resources and money for core teams to support these products. Microsoft, one of the biggest software companies in the world, like historically, already moving into the direction of open source. This is like they turned in 20 years. They turned from a hater of open source, an enemy, like vigorous enemy of open source, into the biggest open source contributor in the world as of now. They bought the social network for open source called GitHub. They acquired it, and they push it like very hard. They almost made it completely like free, because it used to be kind of freemium. You can, if you want to run open source projects, it's for free, but if you want to have private repositories, you have to pay to them. Now they have
right, and they are releasing step by step the whole .NET framework as another example, as open source as this .NET Core initiative. It's another example from Microsoft and their open source direction in which they are going.
So it could be just one of the directions where this kind of killer project can come from smart corporations which are in the digital business. So, yeah, let's see. I mean, it's an exciting development. What's going on right now? We got the news 1 month ago. I think even less than 1 month ago, about Amazon. It's another huge player on the market with their solution. Hopefully, we will get someone in the next meetups who will showcase how it actually works, because I think it's really interesting to our cloud native community as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because, for example, as far as I know, Webflow staff is like about 170 people. And of course, we cannot expect, as I said in the very beginning, that the features are releasing very slowly. And yeah, I understand that they have limited amount of people. You have to hire those people and let them like join the company. But when you have an open source where like thousands of people can contribute, that's faster growing and more productive solution. And afterwards, I'm not against of paying for good product. Really, if you can then like sell something for the, using this product, why not to pay for that? Even to make this product to be grown much faster, like WordPress was.
Yeah, open source is not mainly about paying. It's a great point, Elchin. You have to pay back businesses for their effort, to these developers who are involved there to feed their families and survive at all. I mean, and maybe be successful in this business if the business is successful. Open source is about more like being inclusive and letting everyone to contribute some ideas, some code, or whatever. You know, it's just a completely different mindset. I think even corporations will be more and more embracing this kind of concept in the future. It's very strong, and I think it will even grow in the upcoming time. Yeah. Do we want to wrap up our very interesting meetup on low code and no code, but also web automation? So
nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So if Elchin has nothing to add, I think it's the right time to wrap up. I want to thank everyone. While leaving, please say goodbye and everything. You know, I want to hear your voices, and everyone will be.
I want to add something. I want to say something.
Yeah, please.
More about open source. More about open source project. I think a big company like Facebook, Google, and others invest on open source where they know that they will extract something. You've talked about Kubernetes, the project Kubernetes. This project was great, but with this project led also the cloud, one of the cloud infrastructure of Google. If you talk about the open source project like Cassandra, that is the great database. This database was at some point used by Facebook. And I think the project about low code, no code, open source has to be something maybe I don't think it will be so. Maybe for this great company has to show the opportunity for them to get something back. It's just something we have been thinking based upon recent project I'll point out.
It's a good point, Ben. It only shows me how much can be discussed here, and we can have a separate maybe session on open source conceptually. I think it's an amazing topic, and we can fill up 2 or 3 hours with discussions like this. Great. Stay tuned. We will definitely have something on open source as well, because it's an amazing thing what's going on there.
Yeah,
but for
I'm
now,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, amazing. Stay tuned, and in the group, every event you will be notified if something will come up, and we have constantly interesting stuff going on. With this, I want to thank everyone for being in this call, attending this event, and